You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Tu es l'image de Dieu.
I hold you in my heart.
Tu es l'image de l'amour.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Tu sei la luce di Dio.
I hold you in my heart.
Tu sei il volto dell'amore.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of God. The face of God. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are a part of me. A part of me. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God.
Eres la luz de Dios.
I hold you in my heart.
Eres la cara del amor.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Sei la luce di Dio.
You are the face of God.
the face of God.
You are the face
Tu
of
es
God.
l'image de Dieu.
You are the face of God.
the face of God.
You are the face
Oh,
of
sei
God.
la luz de Dios.
You are the face
You
of God.
are the face of God.
You are the face
Tu
of God.
ruh khudai.
You are the face
You
of God.
are the face of God.
You are the face of God.
Eres la luz de Dios.
You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Tu es l'image de Dieu.
I hold you in my heart.
Tu es l'image de l'amour.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Tu sei la luce di Dio.
I hold you in my heart.
Tu sei il volto dell'amore.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of God. The face of God. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are a part of me. A part of me. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God.
Eres la luz de Dios.
I hold you in my heart.
Eres la cara del amor.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face
Tu
of
sei la luce di Dio.
You are the face
You
of
are the
God.
face of God.
You are the
Tu
face of
es
God.
l'image de Dieu.
You are the face
You
of
are the face of God.
You are the face
Tu
of
sei
God.
la luz de Dio.
You are the face
You
of
are the face of God.
God. You are the face
Tu
of God.
ruh خدایی.
You are the face
You
of God.
are the face of God.
You are the face of God.
Eres la luz de Dios.
You are the face of God.
Good morning and welcome to Spiritual Life Center a church that love is building.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Let us open with prayer. We come this morning, God, to be lifted, to be raised up out of the problem and into the solution, away from any sense of darkness and into the light. I know that there is a solution to everything. There is an answer. There's something I can do. And so, God, I call on you, fully aware that you are alive in me, flowing through me, doing your mighty work in me. I not only acknowledge your mighty power residing in me, I claim it, embrace it, and call it forth so that from this day on, I might function from my highest and best. This I do in a spirit of joy and positive expectation and total gratitude for your loving presence as we pray in the name of the Christ Spirit alive within us all. And so it is. Amen.
You who dwell in the shelter of the Lord, who abides in his shadow for life, say to the Lord, my refuge, my rock, in whom I trust, and he will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. The snare of the fowler will never capture you, and famine will bring you no fear. Under his wings your refuge, his faithfulness your shield, and he will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. For to his angels he's given a command to guard you in all of your ways. Upon their hands they will bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. And he will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand, and hold you in the palm of his hand.
As we prepare for meditation, I invite you to take a deep breath. Allow your breathing to let you relax. Ask your mind to be still as you remember to turn within to that still, quiet place within us where all of our answers are. Within each of us, dwelling within each of us, is the very presence of the living God. So we continue to relax and just let go. Whatever cares or concerns we may have come in with, allow them to fade away. For within us, at the very depth of our being, the source of our wisdom lies. Let us ask ourselves the great questions, and we call forth from them the profound answers. What is the purpose of this life I am living? We allow ourselves to listen and remember. We have been created in God's image to love, to serve, to remember and awaken to who we truly are. Breathing even more deeply, we drop deeper into the silence, to the still place that the ancients have called the Holy of Holies. And we do so in the silence. There is a place within us that remembers, that knows. Within each of us carries a great life, with real gifts to give, to share, that will make a difference at this time in the world. And so we continue to open to this great love that each of us is, to continue to open to the unique and wonderful gifts that each of us carries. As we take time each day to listen, we come to see how each one of us together can have a part in creating heaven on earth, as we remember to love, to serve, and to trust. When we remember that God is in every moment of every circumstance, and so we choose to remember and to remember love. We choose to remember that all that we give to ourselves. Let us remember love as we open our hearts in gratitude for our lives, for our loved ones, for our spiritual community. We send a prayerful thought to the children and teachers in all parts of the world. We remember those who have special needs who may be right in this room. For all of the good that we have, for all of the good that is yet to come, we say in advance, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. And now let us sing together the words that our brother taught us to sing, the Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Some things in life are bad, they can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your sin and give the audience a grin. Enjoy it, it's your last chance anyhow. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your sin and give the audience a grin. Give the audience the grin they love, and always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. Side of life, side of life, side of life.
Nancy, that was wonderful. You are not only a great vocalist, you're a terrific whistler too. George Bernard Shaw and Winston Churchill were friendly rivals. Shaw sent Churchill a note one day that said, "I'm enclosing 2 tickets to the first night of my new play. Bring a friend if you have one." Churchill replied, "Cannot possibly attend the first night. Will the second, if there is one." Churchill was always coming up with quick, brilliant statements, and one applies especially to this message today. If you find yourself going through hell, keep going. Most of us have grown up believing that our lives will follow a certain progression that includes schooling, relationships, quite possibly a marriage, a work life, reasonably good health, and fascinating activities, all of which unfold in a orderly fashion. In other words, we expect to live life in a linear way that is fairly predictable. But that's not the way it tends to happen for us. Life is unpredictable, uncertain in our relationships, our health, jobs, career, and virtually all areas of this earthly experience. The author, Bruce Feiler, wrote a book titled Life is in the Transitions, which resulted from his interviewing at depth 225 persons from all walks of life. And what he discovered, not surprisingly, is that all of them had problems. All of them had disruptions in their lives. Now that wouldn't surprise us because we know that Jesus on more than one occasion said, you will have struggles. You will have obstacles. Feiler called these disruptors that are an event or an experience that interrupts the everyday flow of one's life. These are deviations from our daily life. And he concludes that we can all be pretty certain of some sort of disruption occurring in our lives every year or two. And of course, in 2020, we've all experienced at least one disruption in the form of the coronavirus. And he goes on that anywhere from 3 to 7 of these disruptions will be major disruptions, an average of 5, he thinks, for people that occur over the course of our lifetime. And he calls these life quakes. They are events such as a divorce, a death, a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one. A life quake, he describes as a forceful burst of change in one's life that leads to a period of upheaval, transition, and renewal. Remember that there are 3 stages to these life quakes. Upheaval, the time of transition in between, and then a time of renewal when we're able to resume our lives. And these life quakes impact our ability to function for as long as up to 5 years. He considers it even an average of 5 years for people. And if you look at it, if you have 5 life quakes over a lifetime, each averaging 5 years, that disrupts our lives over a significant period of time. Lenore and I went to visit our dear Leonie just a few days ago. Leonie is just turned 90 a few months ago, and she herself experienced a life quake earlier this year. She was living in her apartment where she had been for 50 years. And she got up one morning, fell somewhere between the bed and the closet, was not able to get up. After a time when she was able to clear her head, she remembered that she had left a cell phone, on the shelf just above where the floor was, the second shelf up. And she was able to make her way over to that and call 911. And when the EMTs were able to get there, they found their way to get in and to rescue her, to get her to a hospital where she experienced surgery, and over a period of a couple months, a time both there and in a rehab center. When it was time to be discharged, she wanted to go home because she had considered this apartment where she wanted to spend her final days. And she was quite distraught when the nurses and the social workers convinced her that there was no way she was able to go back to this home with stairs and a difficulty of maintaining. And so she was finally persuaded to make her way to an assisted living facility. And that's where we visited her outside, safe social distance, and where she absolutely loves it now. I remember for the first few weeks, she was not a happy camper. Wasn't sure she liked it there, that this was going to work out for her. But she discovered that the staff is friendly, the food is good, and there are all kinds of conveniences. And she's making friends. She has a wonderful first floor apartment unit that looks out on a courtyard. And she absolutely loves it. And it's a beautiful place. Leonie went through the upheaval, the time of transition, and now a time of renewal in her life. Each of us can examine our own history of life quakes. I went through mine, and I find that I've had at least 9 life quakes in my years. 3 of these occurred before I was even out of my teens. I was born with a club foot, and my parents, mainly my mother, saw to it that I got medical attention that allowed an experimental surgery or treatment to be such that they took me to a doctor every Sunday. And I can barely remember going up and down those stairs. Now, I was only months old at that time, but I can visualize it. And I know every week they would twist my foot a little bit more and then put a fresh cast on. And I had this cast on for the first 18 months of my life. And then until I was 12 years old, I had to wear those special high top shoes that made me different from every other kid. So that was a life quake, even before I knew what life was about. Then when I was 15, I began to use alcohol. And I used alcohol for 20 years. At first, it seemed to bring me some calm, some peace, some relief from the frustration of life. But then it began to pull me down to the point where when I was in my mid-30s, I hit a crisis stage, went into treatment. And now, as of last month, it has been 38 years since I've had a drink of alcohol or any other mind-altering substance. Then when I was 17, my father died. And I became the primary caregiver looking over my mother. So these life quakes can be amazing events in our lives. They can be either personal, as mostly they are, or collective, as in the case of the coronavirus that affects many people. They can be voluntary, as when we choose a marriage, or they can be involuntary, when we have an illness that impacts us. Of course, many transitions that we experience have an outcome that is positive, such as the birth of a child, a healing, or an overcoming, the success of a business or an achievement in your job. Filer tells of a young man by the name of Christian who was born to Italian immigrant parents in Chicago. But his parents struggled and sent him to live with his grandparents, where he never did feel that he belonged. He felt lonely, had no connection. One day when he was 14 years old, he told how he was out in an alley and a tough guy pulled up, started roughing him up, and then invited him to join their group. This was the founder of the Chicago area Skinheads, a neo-Nazi white supremacist group. Well, Christian had such a longing to belong that he became a zealot within the white supremacists. He participated in attacks on Jews and blacks. He maintained that the Holocaust was a lie. He felt a purpose for the first time in his life. When the leader of the group was jailed, Christian became the leader himself. And he went on to confront people left and right. He was interviewed on CNN when he was 17 years old, maintaining that white supremacists was the best way to live. One day, when he was in his late teens, he was in a McDonald's with others of his group when they confronted a group of black teenagers. One of the black teenagers pulled out a gun and fired it at him, but the gun jammed. He kicked the head of this black youngster, and the youngster's face was all swollen. And at one point, the youngster raised an eye and looked at him. And Christian said that he felt for the first time empathy for another human being. And he thought to himself, that could have been my brother, my mother, my father. Shortly after that, he fell in love with a girlfriend who hated the movement. And they had a son, and in time, a second boy. And Christian loved those, and he held the youngster and thought, oh, he could be manipulated. I wonder if I've been manipulated. He left the group at the age of 21 after being in it for 7 years. But his wife took the two boys. He went on his transition period of 5 years, during which he drank heavily. He was depressed. He rarely left home. And he was in a very low state. And finally, some friends pushed him to apply for a tech job at IBM. He had always been very accomplished at dealing with computers at that time. He was highly successful to the point where he generated hundreds of millions of dollars for IBM. He wound up marrying his supervisor, still maintaining contact with his boys regularly. And after a time, he went to his old high school where he had been expelled because he had fought and beat up a black guard. And he found this guard, followed him out to his car, and the guard was afraid and, don't hurt me. And he said, no, I just want to apologize to you. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. And the guard forgave him and they hugged. He went on to form a group called Life After Hate that helps former white supremacists and former Islamic fundamentalists to transition out of violence. And he said for him, it all begins with compassion. It begins when people can find a place to identify, a community, a place of belonging. And once we come to understand that our life has not been and never can be the linear experience we may have anticipated, we can become aware of other realities about this earthly journey. The same is true for everyone else. Sometimes we think that we're the only one dealing with issues, dealing with these problems. But it's not true. Everyone else, we have all kinds of company. Everyone prefers to think that we control the trajectory of our life, but the reality is much more tenuous. This non-linear way extends to other facets as well. Back in the 1970s, There was a book called Passages by Gail Sheehy that sold 5 million copies. It was called by the Library of Congress one of the most influential books of the 20th century. And in this book, it describes how everyone will have a midlife crisis, that there are the trying 20s, the deadline decade of the 30s, and that turnaround time of 40. But none of this is so. None of this need be so. The truth is, we found that people have all kinds of experiences. Some people have a midlife crisis. Some people have a crisis at other times in their life. Others don't have any crisis at all. In addition, we learn that some people are introverts and some are extroverts. Some people are passive, some are assertive. The truth is, we're all mixtures of all of this. We see people changing their identity in one way or another. Their sexuality, their gender, their home, their community. How many of us know family who lives throughout the country, throughout the world? Change jobs, even change appearance. Seems like all of this is up for grabs these days. Most people change at least one of these during their lifetime. Many persons more than one. But this uncertain path helps to explain why so many of us feel so overwhelmed much of the time. And the answer becomes relax into the disruptors when they come along. You will be amazing what is possible in the way of renewal. Andre Matisse, one of the great artists of the 20th century, in 1941 was 71 years old, found himself living in a hospital in Nice, France. The doctors had discovered in his colon a tumor. His daughter urged him to take the 12-hour journey to Lyon, where doctors performed an experimental surgery that went on for 4 days. They removed 14 inches of his colon, which was unheard of at that time. This took him closer to death. He described it as a time when he felt like he was living inside of a tomb. But after this, he reinvented the history of art. He was already one of the greatest artists of the 20th century, but he would go on to live another 14 years. Even though he was an invalid, confined to a bed, unable to stand or even hold a paintbrush, he was not even able to see well. Yet he devised an entirely new way of creating images. He called this drawing with scissors. He would take painted sheets of paper saturated in vivid colors, have his assistant place them on the wall after he cut them out into bold graphic shapes. And he created a world that was full of life, with cutouts that included circuses, gardens, dancers, women. Critics have called this the most prodigious work of his already magnificent career. Lenore and I saw just this weekend a special that talked about an archer who is the champion of the world archer, and yet he was born with no arms. He's able to not only live well, effectively, but he drives a car with his feet. He even rides a motorcycle. It's unbelievable the renewal that is possible for people, including that former white supremacist. But you may ask, what about divine order? Doesn't divine order work in our lives? Divine order reigns in the divine realm. And it is up to us, it is up to you to call it forth into your earthly experience. For doing this, it requires one particular Bible verse to be lived out as our reality. When Lenore and I were back in Austin, starting up what turned out to be a very sizable church, the new building was about to be opened. And before we opened it, before the sanctuary was carpeted, we invited all the people of the church to come in on one particular week and to write out with their magic markers their favorite Bible verse. The thought was we would all thereafter be walking on the Word of God. Lenore picked the verse, "With God all things are possible." I have so many, that's one of my favorites. I have so many, but the one I selected was Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God, and God will make straight your path. 4 parts to this. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, not partial, not here and there, not just at some times when an issue is something you're dealing with all your heart. Second, lean not on your own understanding. Don't trust your ego to get you there. You know, we're taught that the wise person will call in the experts. And the expert on living life is God. So lean not on your own understanding. And then third, in all your ways, acknowledge God. Meaning in your relationships, in your business, in your spirituality, in your finances, in every part of life. And fourth, God will make straight your path. God will lead you toward your greater good. It's interesting. When I look back, I have not had a life quake in the last 25 years, ever since Lenore and I entered ministry, but also at the time when we committed ourselves to our spiritual path. Accept the truth that you are on this earth to complete a transition from a personal self that deals only with outer material matters to a state of consciousness where your primary focus is on serving God, calling God forth, trusting God. Remember, you honor God by demonstrating your trust. And you do so by turning over to God everything that comes your way. God bless you. Will you pray with me? Loving Spirit, we are so grateful for your presence, your power, your energy alive within us. We know that you are with us every step of the way, that you guide us, and that you always respond to us. And for this, and for all your magnificent blessings, we say thank you. Amen. And now we would invite you to join us as we prepare for our time of giving. Then we ask if you are able to share your financial support with the church during this challenging time. And we enter into an affirmation that is on your screen. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And there are 3 ways to give if you are willing. First, we invite you to share your love offering through online giving through our secure website, which is www.slctroy.com/give. You may mail a check or money order to the church mailing address, which is 41340 Fox Run Road, number 106, Novi, Michigan, 48377, or call to my personal cell number with credit card information for a one-time charge, 248-925-6214. We also welcome any newcomers, anyone listening to the service, experiencing the service for one of your first times. And we invite you to join our email list by visiting our website, www.slctroy.com, and clicking on Join Email, which is up in the upper right-hand corner. This will allow us to keep you informed of the events happening here at Spiritual Life Center. And if you have prayer requests, we invite you to either call these in to me at my number, 248-925-6214, or send them to the email ronaldfscott@gmail.com. And we also send these prayer requests every week after we send them to the prayer team, where they are prayed over diligently by 35 prayer team members in our church. And amazing things come out of that, I could tell you about. But we also send them on to Silent Unity, where they are prayed over for 30 days. And you may avail yourself of calling Silent Unity with their 24/7 at 1-800-NOW-PRAY. We want you also to know that this coming Wednesday, September 2nd, Reverend Eileen will be providing a class on a mystical approach to spiritual law that features key parts of her upcoming book that she is writing right now. It will be a follow-up to the class of last Wednesday, the 2 weeks ago Wednesday, and you can receive a copy of that as well if you let us know you'd like to get that. Wonderful class. Looking forward to it. Also, we want to make you aware that it was just announced in the last day or so that our own Ursula and Buddy Budson, Ursula Walker and Buddy Budson, will be featured in the opening day of the Detroit Jazz Festival that starts this coming Friday, September 4th. And you can experience this in any number of ways on Channel 22, the Detroit Arts and Entertainment Channel, the festival's webpage, on public radio and public television stations, and in Detroit Jazz Fest Live. You can obtain this. You can go into www.detroitjazzfest.org and watch it. Finally, last week, our own Denise Tyler in the church invited all the women in the church who were interested to come to her home, and they experienced a celebration of the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, providing women the right to vote. They had the opportunity to talk among themselves, to consider the history of it and how much it means. in their lives and in the lives of us all. Finally, we would like to invite you to our Zoom coffee hour at 11 o'clock or immediately following the service. You should have received an email with a new link for this time of connection. If not, please contact us and we will get that information to you. And now, please join us in our peace song, followed by the benediction.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And now as you go forth, know that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you.
The Lord bless thee and keep thee.
The power of God protects you.
The Lord make his face to shine upon thee, and be gracious unto thee.
The presence of God watches over you.
The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee, and grant thee peace.
Wherever you are, God is.
Amen. Amen.
Go your way rejoicing. All is truly well.